1,265 days, and I'm very sorry coming on so late. I'm going to have to do some daytime live streams to Facebook to reach out to everybody. Uh, Not so late in the day. So thank you. Let me make sure that I'm on. Let me make sure. We have breaking news. We have breaking news. We have so much to cover today. I don't know where to begin, except for that Richard's case was absolutely tampered with, tampered, and I meant to put tamper twice. It was tampered with, and that his identity was stolen. The report is great evidence of irregularities and inconsistencies, um, failures, absolute failures, and it just screams that this case was intentionally um, manipulated and misused and intentionally sabotaged for purposes um, of protecting people, covering up for criminal activity, and protecting those that are the criminals. So instead of those law enforcement agents to do their duty under the color of law, they uh, they use their position to cover for criminals and criminal activity instead of identifying the crime and the criminals. Um, they absolutely projected their own criminal activities onto our soldiers. And, you can take any of these young people and twist them and turn them and steal their identity and exaggerate any little foibles they might have, like all of us have, and use it uh, to do a smear campaign to cover up really major crimes. Okay, major crimes. And they do that with intentional malice, absolutely intentional malice. And so, what is the breaking news today? And remember that Richard was promoted twice, okay, since he was murdered. So I think that is very, thank you, Anicia, for coming on and waiting, because this is huge. So we have now confirmation of a conflict of interest with the FBI. So if you're wondering, why isn't Leilani Hart arrested? Why isn't this? Just hold on to your seat. It is going to be a wild ride, more wild than what it has been, because now the FBI have been found to have a conflict of interest. And who do they have a conflict of interest with? Angela Kucherga. Angela Kucherga. Can you believe it? And so, and there's more, and there's more. Um, so this is, and see, they can't just cover up everything. They just can't do it. And they can't do it in our case like they normally do it, because when we got there, they turned us into our son's investigators, and we took that seriously. They said, "You have to bring us leads," and we took that seriously. Our son, what was crazy that was going on there is we knew that there was a smear campaign. We knew that they were going in the wrong direction, supposing on what happened to Richard. We knew that there was foul play, but and that their investigation was going into different areas. And, but of course, at the beginning, we just had our gut feeling, our knowledge of our son, what our son had told us. Um, uh, and so, if you have no corroborating evidence of the crime, you have to investigate that. So instead of, just being bold and brazen, we just said, okay, okay. And we took their help, we took their directions, as well as what we were doing as Team Find Richard Halliday internally, behind the scenes, that we know what were better leads, because we absolutely have confirmation that Dallas Hart was Richard's platoon leader, okay, and that he was homosexual, okay. We were told that pretty early on, that Dallas Hart was homosexual, and that he was Richard's platoon leader, and that he was also like borrowing computers to do his work on. Others, was he using other people's cat card, because it's only one cat card for a computer, right? So in all this identity theft, we absolutely have it confirmed that Richard's identity has been stolen. We have it confirmed that Glendon Oakley Jr.'s identity is stolen, and their identity is still stolen today. Okay? We absolutely have confirmation of who Nadal Beim is, an FBI agent. You can call him an agent. We have been researching behind the scenes, um, because they told us, oh, he's not a special agent. No, but when he's an employee of the FBI's, okay? He's an employee of the FBI's. And it doesn't even matter if he is uh, um, their custodian. It doesn't matter. Because when he went up to the cashier and presented himself and identified himself as FBI, he presented himself as a special agent. Okay, even though he lied, right? He lied. That's what Marlon Soto, dirty Marlon Soto, is telling us. He lied. Maybe he didn't lie, right? Because they didn't arrest him. But he presented himself as an agent that would know about the death of Richard, that would know behind the scenes what was happening in the investigation of Richard, that would know that Richard's remains were found in Mexico. That's how he presented himself. He presented himself as an agent of the FBI, not as, oh yeah, well, I work in the FBI building, I clean the bathrooms or whatever. That's not how he presented himself, okay? And so that we have on CCTV footage. We have the recorded testimony of the cashier, and now we have and that was always strange. Why didn't they arrest him? Or why didn't they come clean? Why didn't they tell us more about our son's remains, right? We it didn't seem right that we weren't getting the official answers. We were just getting things from dirty agent Marlon Soto by phone call, by phone call. No letter from the FBI of any kind of investigation into that. and and so far now we haven't gotten through the whole 700 and 700 plus pages, but we haven't read one thing with his name. Where is Nadal Baim so far? That's a really big thing in Richard's case. And it has corroborating evidence, right? It has corroborating evidence. And so far, we have yet to find anything in this report that has corroborating evidence. Okay, who, reporting on Bolen Rocha, a convicted criminal, connected to Danae Katzen. that is connected to 3905 Bliss Avenue, which is connected to the August 3rd, which is Dallas Hart's birthday, 2019 mass shooting that killed 23. And uh, let's not add another one, 24, because of RI. Well, and there's another one. Another husband was shot in the head, right? Another husband was shot in the head. Um, and then, of course, Glendon Oakley. Glendon Oakley, where they want to keep his death, cause of death, mysterious. But we're getting information that it was a gunshot, okay? That it was a gunshot wound. Um, so there's a lot of talk about mental stuff and a gunshot wound, you know. So we would like to get that confirmed. But they're keeping that a hush hush because he was reporting M4s in the hands of mall cops on that very day that it was supposed to be a lone shooter, right, in Walmart, and he's reporting M4s in the hands of mall cops, outside of Foot Locker, with shots outside of Foot Locker in the mall in a closed, climate controlled building. You can't hear gunshots from almost a mile away at Walmart inside the mall by the Foot Locker, where it's going to make kids running around like crazy inside the mall. They should feel safe inside the mall if the active shooter is over there at Walmart. And matter of fact, one of the witnesses were running over to the mall to find a safe place to hide and got to the mall and heard shots and ran in another direction behind into a parking lot. So, uh, yeah, there's so much information, and we're supposed to say that Belen Rocha has any credibility. She has no credibility. Everything that she said is not credible, and there's no corroborating evidence for anything, right? If they had any kind of exhibits that were corroborating evidence, they would have put it in there. The one very interesting part, well, there's so many, because it seems like Thomas Kane played a huge role in Richard's case, huge role. And we're looking into that now, so now we have more and more evidence that we have to look into. But the point that I'm trying to make is because we have become Richard's investigators, they can't just give us this document and redact things and think we can't figure it out. We've done this day in and day out for over 300 years. Thank you, God. Thank you. Um, to do it, my clock is a little bit behind. That's my old grandfather. It's a grandmother clock, but it's from my grandfather. Uh, so, yeah, it's just, they can't expect to hide everything when we have become the investigators. We know our son's case, we know the players. And this is so far like third grade work. I mean, even the word border is not spelled right multiple times. Okay? Um, and that whole border protectors, the customs border protectors, the whole border incident, that's also very interesting in this. So, we're going through it, and I will tell you this: Thomas Kane plays a huge role, and there's no corroborating evidence so far. So far that we have looked through all of this, there's no corroborating evidence. And they seem, under the color of law, to be doing everything they can to sabotage Richard's case. And now, today, because of looking into that, because it's looking into some leads that led us to the FBI, okay? And those leads to the FBI uh, led us to a conflict of interest with Angela Kucherga. So, and after speaking with Angela for, I think it was almost an hour. I don't know, maybe, I don't know how long it was exactly. Um, that was very, very telling. And this conflict of interest sheds light and gives us understanding of that conversation. Okay. And so, and also Leilani Hart's notarized affidavit that has the FBI number on it. Now, this this affidavit that was notarized, why did it go through the CID? Okay, here she is making complaints about her husband, about her family. And it wasn't until then that I took it seriously that Dallas Hart was homosexual, because she is telling she is confessing that Dallas Hart is a homosexual in this. And why does that matter? Because a year before that, longer than that, Sammy can even corroborate what I'm saying, because he even listened to our evidence, that we have a very good witness, that Dallas Hart was Richard's platoon leader and he was homosexual. And that's how she said it. Oh, yeah, he's a gay guy. He's a gay platoon leader. There you go. There you have it. He's Richard's platoon leader. And that is, and using other people's computers to do his work. That's also interesting, because we know for sure that Leilani Hart has stolen other people's identity, that she's using other people's social security numbers, and they use that to get loans and everything like that. Okay? Um, and I think she even says in one of her documents that her husband taught her how to do that. That's pretty concerning, that he has access to all of these files and of people, and on the VA health board for disability benefits. That's pretty concerning. So, but in this affidavit, it was accepted by the CID, given a CID number, but uh, in today's case, and today's, let's put a magnifying glass on the FBI, right? The FBI, that CID referred it to the FBI, and the FBI accepted it and gave it a case number. And that case number then was given to somebody to be leaked out, and it's been floating around. And we, thank you, God, were given that FBI number and the CID number, and we went and had it confirmed, and absolutely confirmed that affidavit, that confession of incest, of a 7-year-old being sexually assaulted in her master bedroom, of the guns being purchased illegally, her being threatened by them, the child pornography, which is child torture, the long history of pedophilia. Um, I'm trying to think about everything that was in there, because there's so many felony crimes in there, and that was accepted by the FBI. And then they're like, oh, but this is an unreliable source because she's a convicted criminal, right? Well, why, if they're saying she lied to the FBI, why aren't they arresting her? Okay, why aren't they arresting her? That's so everything's kind of matching up in our case, in our investigation. We're matching everything up because we have, and I've kept it for a long time, um, but because of the information or the lack thereof of any first lieutenant, where is the platoon leader? So far, we haven't found one in the paperwork. And the platoon leader is the one that has access to all of Richard's life, being his stuff, being his records. So he should have played a huge part in all of this. And we should have been able to meet him, right? And that wasn't the case because he's Dallas Hart. Okay. Um, and I even tried to call First Lieutenant Brown up, and he was unwilling to speak with us. Why? Why? He could have told us who the platoon leader was, but he was unwilling to speak, right? Because um, he knew it was Dallas Hart. He knew it was Dallas Hart. And Dallas Hart is a prime suspect in the murder of our son, because of the overwhelming evidence that we have. And the Lonnie Hart um, provided a lot of that for us, and also other like this years ago. Years ago, I first started speaking to this source when we were in El Paso, and absolutely confirmed that Dallas Hart was Richard's platoon leader. But I did not understand what that meant. Um, it's like, okay, but no, um, there's a lot going on there, a lot going on. And so much so that the FBI would be buddy buddy with Tavita Nusa, with Lonnie Hart, with Dallas Hart. Absolutely. Dallas Hart knew who Tavita Nusa was. His mother was sleeping with the CID agent, and he is first lieutenant on Fort Bliss. He and involved in Richard's case, of course. He knew who Tavita Nusa was all along. Um, absolutely. And he told me he didn't know who Travis is or whatever. No, no, no. It's not Travis. It's Tavita Newson. You knew exactly who he is. And his dad wasn't, James was not like that. He was like, yeah, I know. That's her cousin. And what they tried to do, and we've confirmed that it's not true. Tavita Nusa is not Leilani Hart's second cousin. And this is where dirty agent Marlon Soto went so wrong, because he tried to be like, well, she has information because they're family, they're family, make excuses. But it's not true. They were having an affair and they're not family. And the history of stolen identity is in uh, Leilani's criminal history. The history of telling lies to law enforcement is in Leilani's history. The history of mental illness is in Leilani's history. The history of being violent is in Leilani's history. The assault, the harassment, the following people around, that's in that. So all of the projection is from them, because I don't even know if they know what life is like without having all that garbage in it, you know and that they think maybe that's a normal thing in life, but it's not. and it wasn't part of Richard's life at all. And so for them to project this kind of garbage is, gives us a good description of the suspect. That's what it that's what it gives. And so I'm learning how to be an investigator. Oh yeah, okay. Tell us what you think about oh yeah, that describes the suspect. Okay, you have to put a mirror in front of them. I'm realizing why mirrors are so dangerous for Dracula, right? For vampires. They're so dangerous for vampires you can't see them in it, right? Um, but not in this case. We can absolutely see who Dallas Hart is, who Lilani Hart is, and um, and others by their projection of themselves. And so there's a a conflict of interest with the FBI, with Angela Kacherga. If you don't know who Angela Kacherga is, she has targeted um, this investigation with intentional malice, with obstruction of justice. She's a very bad player in this, very, very bad player. And she might have some charisma or whatever to get these awards and say, I'm for the border. But no, she is a wolf in sheep's clothing. I want to say that to the people of El Paso. She is up to no good. And we have now the conflict of interest to um, to share right now with everybody. And hold on to your seats, because the more we confirm about the connections and the conflict of interest, it's going to get a little wild. So yeah, because it involves the FBI. Because it involves the FBI. And so if you want to know why things haven't, because if it wasn't for this conflict of interest, our son's case could have been absolutely solved. It's all of these players have to um, be in place for them to get away with murder. And that's exactly what they've tried to do, is get away with murder. And if they can orchestrate um, the August 3rd, 2019 mass shooting case, which is linked, totally linked to 3905 Bliss Avenue and incidences that happened there. Okay? If they can orchestrate that, then they can absolutely orchestrate the cover up, the murder and the cover up of our son, Richard Halliday. It's that is very clear. And, they're just not, um, they haven't fine tuned it yet. That's really good, because we're seeing all the loose ends, and they cannot cover up the truth. You just can't cover up the truth with a bunch of lies. You just can't do it. It doesn't work. It doesn't fit. And so these truths are coming out, and then us being made, the investigators, um, we have the ability to see through it. And yeah, it's that's a huge blessing, a huge blessing. But DES, and we'll get back with you tomorrow, God willing, about the DES and his role in the border incident, his role in the cover up of Richard's case, um, because absolutely, well, I can tell you this, he was the first person that was contacted when Richard went missing. And so Thomas Kane, the excuse being used, oh, we don't have the CCTV footage, we don't have the ins and outs, the coming and goings through the gates and stuff like that. We don't have that. Oh, it was so late. It was so late before I found out. No, no. He was the first one to find out. And it's his job to automatically save that CCTV footage and know who's coming in and out of the gate. Absolutely. And where is it in the paperwork? It's not there. It's not there. And I think that is huge. I just gave you so much information to process, okay, about Dallas Hart, about the affidavit, the confession. I have to be very guarded on how I say these because I don't want to be misrepresented when it comes to the Harts. They are not by my saying it, but by eyewitness testimony and by the records. They fit the corroborating evidence. Okay? They fit the corroborating evidence without me having to manufacture any kind of evidence at all, which the other side does. And in this, there's this an attempt to tamper with evidence, manufacture witness testimony. But it's so sloppy. It's so sloppy. They're not a Steven Spielberg. Okay, they're not going to win any awards, any Oscars, or for production or whatever. And for Thomas Kane, the director of emergency services, the man that was in, uh, you know, absolutely supposed to secure that base, um, was the first person that knew about Richard's absence. And where are the protocols? He's in charge of the security of Fort Bliss. Where are the protocols? Okay, so that's a really, really big deal. Um, so I just gave you so much information to process with Kacherga being conflicting with the FBI, and I will tell you this, that it absolutely explains why Leilani Hart hasn't been arrested yet. Um, Absolutely. So, and we will lay that all out. And this John Briggs, don't forget about John Briggs, because that's in the DA's office, right? So you have a conflict in the FBI, a conflict in the DA's office. Someone that is absolutely wanting to sabotage Richard's case, along with the August 3rd, 2019 mass shooting case. Um, that's clear. So also, okay, who's in the CPS? Who's in the CYS? Well, Thomas Kane was having a very, very close relationship with Ann Ogle in the administrator for the CYS. Not only was she the administrator for the CYS, she's Superwoman. Okay? Um, so she's administrator for a CYS. She's a professor at Park University. She's working over there at New Mexico State University, from what we gather, which is very, very interesting. She's also in business with several businesses with Thomas Kane. And then she's also works for Raven Aerostar, the high altitude, high pressurized balloons. And from what we have been told, that spy balloon from China, that was a Raven Aerostar balloon. Is that true? That's what has been reported. and those are launched from White Sands. And so, she's a very, very, and she's in charge of all the children in the emergency intake center. And it's like this FBI Nieto, he's, been there a long time, and we have just records of murders in El Paso. And El Paso has always prided itself on being a safe city. A safe city. Well, it's not safe anymore. And that's under FBI Nieto. Okay? I want everyone to remember that. Because in the FBI, there's a conflict with Angela Kacherga. So if they really cared about the border, if they really cared about people, they really cared about what happened to these. And this is another thing that in the last couple days, something that we witnessed, how these migrants are being used and abused. Um, and they just think they've hit the jackpot. But there's always a price to pay. And so my heart goes out to them, how they're being hoodwinked, hypnotized. We're just being hypnotized um, out of reality. And so for the pocketbooks of certain people that need the deep pockets in order to stay in political power, okay? Because it costs money to do that, and they want to stay in power, and people will do so much to stay in power. So, yeah, we will be back tomorrow. We're still going through this, and thank you so much. God bless you, and until then, God willing.